I've finished making adjustments in Camera Raw, so I'm now going to open the image in Photoshop. I'll click open, and there it is, and it looks as though Camera Raw's made a decent effort at sorting out this image, but there are one or two things that I want to do to it, looking at it quickly. And the first one of those is the sky's good, but I think it could be made better. So what I'm going to do is darken the sky first. I'm going to do that by clicking the adjustment layer icon down here at the bottom and putting in a levels adjustment layer, and there it is. And I'm going to double click the title and I'm going to call it Sky, because that's what we want to do. Okay, you find it's very useful to have the various layers labelled when you start getting a stack of them. It's easier to find your way around. So what I'm going to do, there's the levels dialog, and I'm just going to look at the sky now and darken it down. You usually find it quite the thing to go too far and then come back a bit so it looks as I want it. So quite pleased with that. But you'll notice that when we did that, it's darkened all the low part of the image too, which we don't want. So I'm going to use the layer mask, which you can see over here on the right. It's got a white line around it, and that shows that it's active. And I'm going to paint on the mask with black paint, and the black stops the effect of the adjustment layer showing through and affecting the layer, the pixel layer underneath. So I want to paint in black. Now if you look over here on the left hand side, you see the foreground colour is white, the background colour is black. I want black, so I can click this arrow to change them over. Now the other way of doing it is just to click X, and if you click X it swaps them. So we'll click X again and get it back to black. I'm going to want the brush. There's the brush too. If you click the right hand mouse button, you find a list of what's hidden under there. And as it happens, the brush tool's at the top. That's what we want. Okay. If you look here, it gives you the size of the brush, 200, and the faint edge to it shows that it's a soft brush, and it will be the edge of it will be feathered. I'm actually going to make that bigger by clicking the right hand square brackets button. You can see it's gone up to 300 now, and I'm going to paint over the bottom part of the image. Before I do, you see the opacity at the minute it's 60%, but I don't want it 60%, I want it 100%. So I'm going to paint over in black. So there we go, paint it over, and you can see the background showing through as it was before we did the levels adjustment. So I want to let the top part of the brush overlap the sky. So that's it. So that looks better to me. One thing I have noticed now that I've darkened it down, the sky looks a little bit blue to me. So I'm going to desaturate that a bit. I'm going to add mask the selection, and there you can see the selection. And now I'm going to create another adjustment layer, and I'm going to make it a hue and saturation one. And there it is, and you can see the fact that we had a selection active. You can see that the mask's already in place. So now if I do it now, it's going to adjust all the colours. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to change the I'm going to change the hue and saturation to just the blues, and I want to drag the saturation of the blues down a bit. That to me looks better, so I'm happy with that. Okay, now what I want to do now, looking at it more critically, I'm not too keen on the black shadow of the loco on the train, so I'm going to put another adjustment layer in, and I'm going to do it levels again, and I'm going to call this one, double click it and call it loco shadow. I'm going to just look at the shadow now, and I'm going to lighten it. Again, I tend to go farther than I need to go and then come back a bit. So that looks about okay. And you see everything else has now gone, again, everything else is now too light. So I'm going to activate the mask. We've still got black as the foreground colour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill the mask with black by going Edit, Fill. I could use Shift F5 to do the same thing. So we'll click that. I'm going to use the foreground colour, and there we go. I'm going to change the foreground colour now to white. I'm going to click X to do it. There we go. I'm going to make the brush smaller by clicking the left hand square bracket, and I'm going to paint over this, this shadow like so, which is lined it up quite nice. I did buffer bean as well, so it looks a bit lighter than it did, and the back of the back of the train. Having looked at it now, I think I've probably gone a bit too far. It's a bit too light, so I can reactivate the levels dialog by clicking it there, and I can darken it down a bit more, so that's better. So I'm pleased with that. But the only other thing I want to do is looking at the bridge. That's in shadow as well, so I'm going to lighten that. So you know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do another adjustment layer, another levels adjustment layer, and this time I'm going to just watch the bridge, lighten it up a bit. That's about it. That's okay. So my layer mask is active. Again, like I did last time, I'm going to change the foreground colour to black by pressing X. There we go. And fill the layer mask by pressing Shift F5. And that will bring up the dialog and fill it with black. I'm going to use a smaller brush this time, so it's left hand bracket key. Make the brush smaller. And I'm going to paint on there this time in white, so it's press X to change the foreground colour and paint over the bridge to lighten it off a bit. Minor adjustments these, but they can make a big difference to the image. So there, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to activate the levels adjustment there. I'm just going to just use it about just to check that I've got it the way I want it. That's about right, so I'd leave it there. I didn't label this one, but I'll label it now. Double click it, call it bridge. So when I come back to this, if ever I do, I'll be able to easily determine which bit I want to alter. In fact, I might do the sky a bit more now. I'm going to click the levels adjustment. I'm going to activate the sky layer, click the levels icon. I'm just going to make it a bit darker. And that's the advantage of doing this. You can keep going backwards and forwards and making changes as you wish. So that looks suitably stormy. Okay. So I think I think that white blob up there bothers me a bit. So what I'm going to do with that, you guessed, another adjustment layer. This time I'm going to do a curves adjustment. I'm going to fill it with black. So it's X, black as a foreground colour. Shift F5. Click OK. Fill it with black. Now I'm going to, before I do that, I really need to paint this bit with white, don't I? So I'll press X to do it, and I'm going to paint over there in white. So just working on this bit now. So I'm going to bring the white bit down, darken that off. And I could do the same thing actually if I paint in white. So I'll activate the curves again, paint over that, and that darken that bit of white as well. I don't like blown highlights. So basically that's it. So this curves one, so I'm not sure what to call it. I'll call this sky white patch. So when I come back and need to alter it, I know what to do. So then we've got a fairly comprehensive stack of layers of various sorts. If you want to see what the thing started out like, you can turn all the various layers off, and that's what we started with. That's what we've finished with, which I think is a more effective image. Now, if I want to save this, I can save it with all the layers, and I do that by going File, Save As. I'm going to save it on my computer. It's a bit irritating that it does this on Windows CC. I'm going to save it as 57 plus Niagara. I'm going to save it as PSD. Okay, and that's saved it with all the layers intact. If we want to save it as a smaller file, I can now go to Layer, Flatten Image, and that flattens it. Then I can do another file save as, and to differentiate this one from the other one, I can go 57 Ross Niagara flat. And that's a bit of basic work on adjustment layers.